Please rise for the arrival of the President of the Republic of Seychelles. Kindly close the back door as you come in. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. President and your team, Mr. Vice President. Please be seated. Thank you. So welcome back, everyone. Before I announce the third TED Talker, let me quickly give you a little bit of story about her biography. She is an entrepreneur, at heart for sure. So while born and raised in the Netherlands, for the past 16 years, she has lived and worked in multiple emerging market contexts in Asia and Southeast Europe, and also in the Middle East. So she has been involved with Fortune 500 companies, global media, and startups. Today, she applies her experience and expertise as the Global Business Development Director of Non-Zero Africa. In her own words, she says, "We are venture builders and apply a Robin Hood model of redistribution, leveraging our access to network, resources, training, and funding, and making this available to empower African homegrown small and growing businesses." She is committed to female empowerment and supports female-led businesses and organizations. She's a masterclass in business development and fundraising. Her name is Ms. Desiree Brouwer. Thank you so much. You have 15 minutes. Enjoy.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
No. Yes. Fantastic. Now you can hear me. Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for making the time to still join me as the official last TED Talker of this event. For me, entrepreneurship in Africa is truly the bravest endeavor of all time. So first of all, I'd just like to take a moment to applaud all the entrepreneurs that have been pitching here and that have been showing their incredible innovations over the past days. I know exactly the kind of grit and resilience it takes to be where you are today, and I truly applaud you. Thank you. That's what I was hoping for. So born and raised in a small town in the Netherlands, 7,000 people, cow sheep castle, my dad from the village to the left, my mom from the village to the right. From when I was 8, I was committed to live a non-conventional life. I wanted to travel the world, do big things, and meet amazing people. And look at me today. It's been phenomenal. Having spent the majority of my 20s operating in different emerging markets has really instilled in me an admiration for places where people are truly fighting for things. It also nurtured a desire to actually contribute to lasting change and make a measurable impact. And that's exactly what we do with Non-Zero today. So Non-Zero is based on game theory principles. Zero-sum game theory, somebody wins and somebody loses. Non-zero sum is when everybody wins. And we get specifically happy when we see Africa win. So my role in the business is that of connector. And that's first of all because I love to connect with people. Then also I love to connect people. And then lastly, I love to connect the dots to raise the funds to launch new projects and to help drive new businesses. So what's interesting for me is having been outside of the Netherlands for so long, whenever I come back and I reconnect with my Dutch friends who are proud entrepreneurs as well, and they share some of their challenges. And it's sometimes hard for me to switch off that little voice in the back of my head that is thinking, but you're so comfortable. You're sitting there backed by generational wisdom, generational wealth, publicly funded education, family and friends that have the means to support you, and most definitely there's banks that can actually give you the loans to do what you need to do. Then the other way around, for them sometimes it's difficult to imagine what it's like doing business on this beauty of a continent, dealing with an unlimited amount of factors and risks that actually you can't control, no matter how hard you try to hedge for them. And let's not even start about the funding issues that entrepreneurs here are facing. Obviously, the bright side is limitless opportunities to actually contribute and solve for basic needs in food security, also in infrastructure, and even to develop and drive completely new industries like the maritime economies, and we've all been endeavoring for the past few days. So as much as there's differences between European entrepreneurs, between African entrepreneurs and ways of doing business, what I want to do today is really focus on the similarities. And in that light, I'm going to focus on the very one word that every single entrepreneur needs to learn to love rather sooner than later. And that word is no. In case it's been a while since you heard your last no, let me just refresh your memory a tiny bit. No, that's never gonna work. No, I'm not gonna buy your product. No, I don't see the value. I have no desire to invest. No, I don't want to work for your business. It's way too small. No, I don't want to work with you anymore. And obviously, the list goes and goes. So what's interesting when it comes to this word no is that as toddlers, apparently we hear the word no on average 400 times every single day. I mean, for the next generation, soft parenting techniques at all, it might be a little bit less. But still, by the time you're a grown-up and you're driving that business, you should have heard no enough to actually be comfortable. So why is it that it still hurts? And why it still hurts so much? And that is because of our basic wiring. A number of smart scientists decided to investigate this in 2011. They selected a random sample of people, asked them to think of the last time they actually experienced rejection. What's interesting, they looked at the part of the brain that sparked an activity, and it's exactly the same part that lights up when we feel physical pain. So what that means is the moment that we hear a no, the moment that we feel rejection, it's exactly the same to your body as physical pain. So how does this manifest on a day-to-day? I have the absolute pleasure to engage with entrepreneurs all the time. And what always blows my mind is that entrepreneurs and founders, when they're at the point where they just need to go out there to raise money, they just need to go out there to sell and to get some clients, they come to us first. And what they're looking for is a rebrand. What they're looking for is to improve their pitch deck because it's not visually appealing enough. What they're looking for is a better website. And it always makes me chuckle a little bit because it's not as if that brand new website, CEO optimized and all of a sudden going to make that phone in your office ring nonstop. It's not going to make investors run to you to fund you, or clients that now all of a sudden really want to buy your products. So that's always a great opportunity to actually challenge these entrepreneurs to go out there and to proactively knock on those doors. But God forbid, imagine you actually knock on that door and that door is smacked straight back into your face. Now, what that does to you is that it takes you back to your hunter-gatherer days, where we were all living in tribes. We were reliant on one another for food, for shelter. Rejection meant you were no longer part of your community. You were no longer part of your tribe. And that imminently led to death. And isn't that the biggest fear of most of us? Another example, working with a really exciting young entrepreneur, launching a business, an app, a technology that would actually automate HR, using gamification as a means to up employee monitoring and engagement. So we're doing the intake, and this entrepreneur proudly tells me about the 350 meetings that he's done in the past year that were all incredibly positive. So obviously this excites me. This entrepreneur is going out there. He's going for it. So I ask him how many of those meetings converted. And he looks at me a little bit puzzled, a little bit taken aback. He's like, "What do you mean, Desiree? I just had really great meetings and everybody loves what we do." And I was like, I understand that, but how much did you put on the table? How many of those meetings actually converted, and what is the revenue coming from that? And that takes me to my favorite movie moment. Because how can we expect investors or clients to show us the money without us putting anything on the table? So this example proves again that it's so much more fun to keep on building castles in the sky and dreaming of what could be than actually going out there and going in for that no or the yes. So when it comes to this, and when it comes to trying to embrace the no, because that's the point where I'm trying to get you to today. And one of the first things to remember is that the no is very important when it comes to innovation. Innovation is rooted in boldness. Innovation is rooted in risk-taking. Innovation is rooted in challenges. So what a no actually does is that it pushes you to be better, to grow, to improve. So just think back of Airbnb in 2008. There was a really exciting opportunity, and I hope that some of you, it would have been great if some of you would have taken advantage of it. There was a great opportunity to invest in Airbnb. You could get a 10% stake at $150,000 US. This offer was made to 7 investors who, you're already guessing it, they all said no. And as a result, when we look at Airbnb today, the company is worth well over 25 billion US. Now think of anybody who is anybody in this world. Without the no's, we wouldn't have had Oprah, we wouldn't have had Serena, we wouldn't have had our very own Black Mermaid, Londi. So what I'm trying to tell you is, no is actually not where it ends. For me, no is where it begins. So when it comes to talking about embracing these no's, that's obviously always easier said than done. And like with any skill set in life, it's partly nature, partly nurture. So you're looking at one of these people that I actually only physically feel the no after I've heard it 4 times. It took a while to actually get to the point where this was a business-only thing. So you can imagine what it was like to be my sibling, let alone date me in my 20s. So growing up really is a blessing, and so is the ability to switch it off. And when it comes to where it stems from, some DNA testing that I did turns out that I simply have very high resilience levels. So on a day-to-day, that means that my business partner likes to refer to me as the wartime CEO, because there's nothing I love more than a really good challenge, and there's nothing that motivates me more than hearing that something isn't possible. Then the second part is the nurture element. And this is where, for a little bit, I'm going to take it back again to my family. So, coming from a very hardworking family, lots of love and support, but anything that you desired over and above the roof above your head, the food on the table, and your basic education, you had to work for. So I've always liked to work smart versus hard. And I quickly discovered that with my skills, telemarketing, and even door-to-door sales, I was that person, are very lucrative. So what that did for me is that I was an incredibly rich team, but also what that did for me is that I actually experienced what it feels like to have a physical door closed in your face more than once. Then, after that, I started my career working in these different emerging markets. This is me. Like, you can have a little look at the brick that is on my lap, and you'll see that this is around 2007 in Serbia. Likely, I'm on the line with the Prime Minister's office, as I've been trying to get a meeting with the Prime Minister for quite a while. And unfortunately, life back then wasn't as good as it is today. So on arrival in a new country, it's not like there's a beautiful welcome reception at the State House where the warmest and kindest president of all times is welcoming you. So thanks again, Your Excellency. Unfortunately, most of the times it's not like that. And in all the markets where I operated, it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of phone calls to get those 5 meetings a day with decision makers in government and in business. So that's another 3.5 years of solid no's, followed by working for different media companies, launching various businesses all over the continent, from Equatorial Guinea to Togo to all over Southern Africa. And then now for the past 7 years, driving growth for non-zero, as well as all of the businesses that we support. So based on all of that, I can safely say that I've hit that 10,000 hour mark of expertise, because I've definitely spent well over 10,000 hours in trying to manage potential no's and actual no's. So what is it that I would like to do with that, right? Because that's a lot of knowledge. And what I want to do today is give you some tactical tools and handles to help you truly turn every single no you get into a positive force for movement and a positive force for improvement. The first one is to know yourself. If you don't know why it is that you get up every single morning, if you don't know what makes you tick, if you don't know what the big problems are that you're solving with your business, you can't expect the other side to buy into that ever. So the first step is to truly know yourself and drive that value. That takes me to the second point of knowing your value. What happens a lot is that entrepreneurs come to me with a brilliant product and service that is perfected. And now they're dreading that moment where they have to go out there to beg for money, to ask for people to invest. But the great thing is about knowing yourself and knowing your value is that you take the power back, because the business that you're building, the product and service that you're offering, it's not for everyone. You can actually select who stands to benefit from that empire that you're building and that product and service that it is that you're offering. So that totally flips the conversation. Use your why to strategically start thinking about the kind of investor you want to be working with and the kind of clients and partners you want to be operating with. And like this, every single meeting that you do, every single engagement that you have, it's not you begging for money. It's actually you knowing the value that you bring and being selective in terms of who you want to be working with going forward. The third point, be strategic. So make sure that before that meeting, you actually research the other side, and make sure that during that meeting, you actually listen to the interest of the other side. We sometimes get so obsessed with our own thing and our own solution that we forget to listen. And that's mistake number one. And then the last one, prepare to close. Too many, even people, go into meetings not entirely sure what they want to get out of it. So I'd like to challenge you to always go in knowing exactly, or at least having some kind of idea of the value proposition that you're putting on the table, including the deliverables, including the investment. And what the fun thing is with strategically thinking about closing and what you're putting on the table is that you can actually avoid the no altogether. So now imagine, I was totally impressed by Nawal and her beautiful seaskin luxury leather goods. So I'm imagining her sitting at Lafayette in Paris for a meeting with the chief procurement officer. And sitting there, imagine that instead of asking her whether she's interested to do business, she actually says, so looking at all the synergies between us and what my product can actually do for your organization, would you prefer that we start with a 6-month trial where you take off about 350 of my luxury leather pouches, or are you comfortable to just take the whole collection at once for a year? And that, as little as it sounds, changes the entire conversation. It takes away your discomfort and it allows you to have a conversation. So in every single meeting that you do, there's 5 different no's that you can actually prepare for and that you can thus anticipate. No need. This is you doing your homework and looking into the needs of the other side, the corporate objectives, the investor objectives, and finding linkages. The second one is no money. This is you diving into annual reports, chatting to friends that have potential linkages with your investor, with your client, doing the fact-finding beforehand, even making it a conversation during the meeting. The third one, no hurry. Make sure that every single offer you put on the table has a very clear ending date. Again, it gives you power. No desire, my absolute favorite. This means that you have failed to listen. You have failed to listen because you haven't been listening to what actually makes the person on the other side tick. And as such, you haven't been able to speak to it. And then lastly, no trust. By all means, please continue to find ways to build relationship, to build rapport, to find commonality. Let's please not go with the European super efficient way of doing business meetings where we skip those really valuable 15 minutes of talking about the things that truly matter in life. Then a tricky thing when it comes to all of these no's, and we've all come to this point, and it always comes to you at this exact point. It's the point where you're almost there. And that's the point where all of those no's have started to accumulate in your head, and they've become truth. As a result of which, you actually believe what the other people are saying. And you now go into those meetings manifesting these negative thoughts. So the next time those limited beliefs come up, please know that you're only one dig away from a yes. So what I'd like to leave with you today is that no is actually not the end. No is the beginning. No is it's a nice opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to connect with the person on the other side. It's an opportunity to improve your product, to improve your service, to improve your pitch deck. And it's also an opportunity to build confidence, knowing that you did the best with what you had, and what's meant for you will always be yours, just not right now. So next time you hear the word no, I hope that you think of me and that you smile before you activate your basic instinct. Because just remember, every no brings you closer to a yes, so you better start collecting them.
Wow, simply amazing, right? Did I not promise yesterday that our TED Talkers were vibrant and amazing? Thank you once again for joining us on stage.